Okay, that sounds like slander, but we're going to continue on. Buy or sell, Reds edition. The Reds are 3-1. By the way, incredible how baseball is. I thought we were down to our last strike on Sunday, on Easter Sunday. Our last strike. When Jonathan India saved our season.
Yeah.
We were one strike away from being I was ready to call it. And I guess this is where overreaction fans like myself kind of get annoying, and I get it.
Yeah, little overkill.
A little overkill. I get it. I'm a very how do you want to say it?
I don't know. Words don't seem to be coming to that brain.
No. They rarely do. I exaggerate a lot. I exaggerate a lot when it comes to the Reds because I freak out. I see what happens. They don't look very good, and then it comes down to the last strike, and we somehow, by the grace of God, win that game. But going off that, there are a couple guys that have shined out through 4 games. Mm-hmm. Number one being Spencer Steer. Buy or sell, Spencer Steer is the most valuable player on the Reds.
Sell. I love Spencer Steer, but I can't buy that because I think that there are more valuable assets to this team. The most being, right now, I think that Will Benson is the most valuable player on this team. He's continued to produce. I think that he has the ability on the base pass, and I think that that's the area where Spencer Steer probably doesn't get named as much as he should. If Spencer Steer could steal bags and be even, let's call it slightly below average in the outfield, which he may be already. Okay, I'm not suggesting for a single second that Spencer Steer couldn't eventually become an average outfielder because he very much may, and he might already be there. We just haven't had the time to be able to see that develop. He's a hell of a hitter. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind right now, Minnesota. Could you imagine being a Minnesota Twins either fanboy and or being in the front office of Minnesota right now?
Yeah,
you watched that game that you so eloquently speak about where they were down to their last strike and Jonathan India found a way, willed his way to get on base there. But then the very next 2 guys come up and they all, in a way, came off of that Minnesota situation. Now, I know Will Benson didn't come from Minnesota, but he did come from as a kind of like, well, you know, the hockey assist where it's just like, you know, you don't get the actual specific assist. It's the second pass.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we got out of the Minnesota Twins. We got a hockey assist on Will Benson. You have Spencer Steer. And then now you've seen CES hit a walk-off home run. And then the next night you see Spencer Steer hit a grand slam. So the Twins front office should be down pretty bad.
They should be down pretty bad. I'm going to disagree with you, and I'm going to say buy it.
Wow, you're buying.
Yeah, I think he is the most important person, not because of just how good of a hitter he is. He's going to be available every day. I don't think he's going to get hurt. I think he's going to be ready, and he's going to be able to play. And it comes down to this. If your season's on the line, Trace, and you say, we need a base hit, we need to get on base, we need to extend the game, we need to win the game, who do you want at the plate? And I'm going to be honest with you. There's 2 guys that I can name right now that I want at the plate with my season on the line. It's Will Benson and it's Spencer Steer. Those are my 2 guys. Those are the 2 guys that are going to give me the best at bat. They're the 2 most consistent hitters. Those are the 2 guys I want, and I think at this moment it's Spencer Steer. I think this season he is going to be a key. Elly is great. Elly obviously is the highest ceiling out of anybody. It's not close. Saying that, while Elly figures it out, I'm going to take Spencer Steer because we need somebody to anchor this lineup, and he is that anchor. This lineup is never going to be bad because Spencer Steer's in it. I think he is the most important guy we have on this roster. I do. Batting-wise, not pitching-wise.
I do think Spencer Steer, I don't think he's the most valuable, but he definitely raises the floor of this team significantly. I mean, without him, we would probably be in a really, really bad shape.
We'd be in
really bad shape. You know exactly what he's going to give you every single game. He's going to at least give you a base hit and then maybe a walk. Just about every single game. You know that for a fact. And he might make one play in the outfield that you're just like, hey, that's Spencer Steer.
Go ahead.
He's very consistent. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
That's
And
the
we got a chance to talk to Spencer Steer at Reds Fest, and the thing that he had mentioned that perhaps is something that most guys, when you ask them, hey, what is the most thing that you're proud about your game? Spencer Steer said pretty quickly, availability. I expect to be there for my team, and I want to be consistent. And you know what? That's probably the biggest asset that you could have as a major league player, and he's been that. He has been that, and he's continued to be that. So we'll see if he can continue that throughout the rest of the season. But to be fair, we talk about all these other guys, the Elly De La Cruzes of the world. Certainly we talked about Noelvi Marte a lot. We talked about Matt McClain a lot. We talked about CES. We talked about all these young guys. Always Always, Spencer Steer seems to be left out of that group.
Every time.
Every time. And you know what? Of all of the guys that I just talked about, the most consistent guy, without question, by far, is Spencer Steer.
I might be misremembering this commercial from last year, but it's see the ball, hit the ball. It's not that hard. Something around the lines of that, and that's Spencer Steer.
There you go.
That's our guy.
Making the game more.
Can I ask you a question? If the season's on the line, who do you want at the plate? Bases loaded, you need a run to win the game. Bases loaded, who do you want at the plate?
I would say if it's a right-handed pitcher, Jake Fraley. But I would say if you told me right now that I wasn't allowed to pick the dexterity, there's a big word for you, the dexterity of the pitcher,
Yep.
it was a blind pick, I would say Spencer Steer. Because right-handed, left-handed, I still feel confident. If there's a lefty against Fraley, I feel not good at all. So for that answer, and for that reason, like you do on the Shark Tank show, which I think that you do that a lot.
Yeah.
For that reason, I'm taking Spencer Steer.
I'm out. Next up, I saw this all over Reds Twitter. Elly De La Cruz should bunt more. Are you buying Elly De La Cruz should be bunting more?
He's already bunting an okay amount. Like
That's what I thought, too.
I don't think he should be bunting more, so I'm going to sell that. I also think that I just worry sometimes with a young player, you start to try to make him something that he's not, and you start to ask him to do things that he's not capable of doing, or maybe he's not comfortable doing, and then all of a sudden you get him to where he's starting to think too much. He's not just using his God-given natural ability. A lot of this game is psychological. I've said that time and time again. Major League Baseball, almost anybody that gets to the big leagues has the God-given talent to really be, I don't want to say a superstar, but to be a pretty damn good player, if not a perennial borderline all-star. The question is what do you have in between the ears? That's the nature of the beast. And I don't think that's a shock, but the truth is that I worry a little bit that Elly came up, and as soon as he came up, he was this young, naive, brash, I'm better than everybody because that's what I've always been. Yep. And you know what? It's a radio show, so I can't say what I really want to say, but the dude did it. For 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was last year, when he first came up, he's the best damn player on the field. Every single game, you thought to yourself, wow, I am watching greatness. And then, of course, people are going to say, well, the league made adjustments to him. He cooled off. He's really not that good. I'm not suggesting for a second that he was going to be that great, but I think there are times when he plays where he's not been bad by any stretch of the imagination. But I just hope we don't continue to ask Elly to do things that he's not comfortable with. Just let the kid play.
Yeah.
Just let the kid play. So I'm going to sell. He doesn't need to do anything other than just go out there and play.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but bunting more will lead to different looks that you're going to receive, like pitching wise, right? You're going to go up to a at bat and you're going to get different looks than you normally would if you're known to be bunting more.
Not necessarily. You could argue that you would get some defensive looks that were going to be different. Maybe the third baseman, if you're a pull hitter, the third baseman will have to start to play in a little bit versus being able to shift over and play near the shortstop bag. But I wouldn't say that they would pitch him differently. At this point, though, Casey, I think it's fair to say that Elly De La Cruz is not going to get that many more. He's not going to get challenged with a fastball all that often anymore, in my opinion, because he's proven that he can hit that. Now it's whether or not he can lay off speed pitches and if he can put the bat on the ball when it comes to some kind of changeup, split finger, slider, cutter, all those types of pitches.
Well, my only one thought on this is he is most effective when he's actually on base. When you have him stealing
that is a great
bases.
point, Casey. Yes.
And so for me, I don't know if bunting more or less, I think he's already doing a lot of that, to be honest with you. So I don't know if buy is necessarily correct here, but I think they're doing the right thing with him. If they're telling him that he needs to bunt more and that's what he's been doing, then they're on the right path because getting on base is important for him.
Bunting more also gives you when Elly Casey and I've looked at it, he struck out 9 times in 4 games.
That's right.
It's a decent amount of strikeouts there. Bunting puts the ball in play, giving him a chance to get on base.
Correct.
That's the difference. And if you're putting the ball in play, Elly with that speed has a chance to get to first base. And I think and I'll be very clear, I'm not comparing him to Billy Hamilton, but if Billy Hamilton was able to do that more consistently, he'd be an all-star. If Billy Hamilton got on base, he'd be an all-star. But he couldn't get on base. Elly De La Cruz is at a point where he's so young right now, where I'd like to just see him work on hitting a curveball or a slider every now and then. But saying that from the right-handed side of the plate, I think he should only be laying down bunts. I don't like what I see when he comes up on the right-handed side of the plate, and I'd rather him just try to put the ball in play, have him race down to first. Hopefully he gets it. And so yeah, I'm gonna say I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna say
the
he
last
should
point
bunt
I would
more.
make to that is I do think that I said this yesterday on Chatterbox Reds. I think that there's going to come a point in the not too distant future on whether or not Elly should switch hit. Period. Because I mean, at some point, if your splits are really, really, really bad as a right-handed hitter against left-handed pitching, then let's just figure out what that looks like against lefty on lefty. Will Benson starting to get an opportunity lefty on lefty. We'll see we'll see if it plays out, but it'll be interesting. Hopefully Elly continues to produce. If he gets on base, he's a game changer.
Next up, we should be more concerned about the bullpen. I have this take last year, and then I was proven wrong on it every single time. I said the bullpen's going to be the worst part of the team. Every one of these guys I don't trust. I don't know if I'm at the same place. Alexis Diaz, they put him in the 8th inning last night, and all the David Bell haters were coming out of the woodwork and saying, "Oh, this is how we're going to lose." David Bell putting our closer in the 8th inning, and he did get kind of bailed out. If I'm going to be honest, he did get kind of bailed out with that pitch out or whatever it was, the pickle. But I don't know. I go back and forth on this. The blown game on Saturday, which it was pretty much all bullpen, and I know Hunter Green didn't go too far into that game, but he had a solid game. And it was just defense was terrible. I'm concerned about the bullpen, Trace. I'm concerned I'm not going to be able to rely on some of these guys, and it's just because they come out. It's seemingly, and this is maybe just a gross overgeneralization. It seems like they come out and the first batter they walk him every time. And that's what I'm concerned about with these opening batter walks. Fernando Cruz did it Saturday. It obviously came back to haunt. Yesterday, T.J. Antone did it. That run scored, or it came back. It didn't come back to haunt technically, but it could have come back to haunt. So I don't know. I'm going to say, yeah, we should be a little bit concerned here that it's not going to be as good as last year. I guess it's not going to be the world's worst bullpen. It just might not be a top 10 bullpen like we thought and hoped and saw it was last year.
Well, let's run through the names, right? You have T.J. Antone, you have Justin Wilson, Lucas Sims, Alexis Diaz, Buck Farmer, Fernando Cruz, Emilio Pagan, and Brent Suter. Out of all the guys that I named, I could really genuinely say some of these guys are not going to be there regardless once you have Sam Moll return. And all reports have been that he's good to go relatively in the near future. So I'm not going to overly I guess I'm just not going to overreact here to a certain extent. Last year I was told this bullpen was the only reason that this Reds team wasn't going to find themselves in the postseason. And it turns out that the Reds, if they didn't have their bullpen, would have lost, let's just say they would have lost 90 games because the bullpen was, without question, one of the foundational pieces of their success last year. And again, at this time last year, we had everybody, I think it was a significant amount of people that were raising hell about their bullpen. So, I think it's a very fickle thing. The bullpen, let's be honest as well, when you watch a game, they don't have a very good chance of winning your heart, right? They have really what we would call a referee syndrome, which is you only have a chance to fail most times in the fans' eyes. You go out there and you throw 3 or 4 shutout innings. Great, bullpen was good, but you don't really think about it as the main storyline. If you blow it, then the bullpen is the reason that you lost. Same with the referees. If you don't know the referees at the end of the game, they did a great job. Nobody cares about them. But boy, if they miss a call, they're the main storyline. That's the idea with the bullpen. I'm not going to overly concern. I'm going to sell this. I like Suter. I like Pagan. I like Cruz. I don't like Buck Farmer. I like Diaz. I like Sims. And I think that Justin Wilson, T.J. Antone, and quite honestly, Buck Farmer over time are replaceable. But if you're reliant, again, on the bottom 3 guys in your bullpen, also I want to remind everybody that Nick Martinez is going to probably be in the bullpen in the not-too-distant future. He looks like a guy that we can trust in the bullpen. So I am selling.
You're selling.
Yes.
I bought it, but that's okay. Casey?
I'm selling just because it's too early to tell, in my opinion.
That's 100% fair.
I mean, I'm going to give this another couple weeks. I'm going to come back to this in April, and I'm going to give a fair answer. But as of this moment, if I was concerned about anyone, it was going to be Buck Farmer. And then I feel like Diaz it was his first game, regular season game. I'll give him a pass on the first one. He did okay yesterday. Pagan, I don't know. Trace already said it eloquently. I mean, some of those guys are not going to be there in the near future. So give me another month, and I'll let you know how I'm feeling.
Kirby says, should Elly bunt would be a good bonus buy or sell. Didn't we just do that?
I think you just got bitten by a bit. The bit king just got bitten by the chat bit. I can't believe I just saw that with my own eyes.
Me?
I can't believe you fell for that.
No,
No,
Kirby
just-
Kirby just
no,
said
he
he
definitely didn't
missed
see
it.
it.
Kirby said he missed it. Not a bit. That was a joke.
I still don't believe it.
We literally just did it.
I
like a
know,
second
I
ago.
know, but I think that's a bit.
He just said it wasn't.
Well,
So
I
it
don't
was.
believe it. See, now you're getting bitten by the bit that's a bit on top of a bit.
Oh,
See, that's
man.
this is excellent radio. For those that
this
don't
is
know, they're
great
gonna
radio.
have to figure out a way to start to learn the inside baseball that we have on this show. We have people obviously in our chat. You can watch our show on YouTube every single day and participate in the show, as we'd like to say.
Sure.
And there becomes a running joke in certain areas, and I do think that he knew that we just did that segment, and now he
I
just
don't
got
think he
you. He
did.
got you to bring it up.
I don't think he did.
Well,
I
now
think-
we have a big debate on our hands that we'll get to perhaps after the show. I don't know. We'll find out. Do you have another buy or sell on your hand?
Yeah,
Are
I've
we
got
good?
two.
Let's get to them because we are running out of time. The
Will-
radio runs on precise timing.
buy or sell. Will Benson needs to play every day.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm going
Did
to
you
buy
put your
it.
big brain hat on for that one?
I did. I'm going to buy it. Will Benson, again, I mentioned this with Steer earlier. Those two give me the best at-bats, the best quality at-bats. I want him in the lineup. I don't care if it's a lefty. I don't care if it's a righty. I want him playing.
I'll tell you what. I think he's earned enough cred to be able to get a chance for an extended period of time based off of the options we have beneath him. Do you want Benson to play every day, or do you want Bubba Thompson to take those reps away? I'd rather just figure out if Benson can figure it out.
Right.
Even if it means that he can't, because at least now we know. Or we could just run Bubba Thompson out there. Maybe Bubba Thompson would play great. There's nothing against Bubba. I like Bubba Shrimp.
I don't like Bubba, respectfully.
Well, you don't like a lot of guys that aren't the main players, to be honest. So shout out to Stuart Fairchild for getting on the base a few times last night as well. But here's the thing: I am going to
Look great.
buy that.
You look great defensively on Saturday.
I'm going to buy that.
You're going to buy it. Casey?
I'm gonna buy this too.
That's three buys.
I think he's definitely proven enough to at least let you continue to test the waters out, right? I think last year we let him test the waters maybe too long, but it's a new year. Let him try.
Yeah.
Did you sell anything of your own segment, by the way? Or is this stuff that you just believed in, you just wrote it down, and you're just going to buy it all?
I don't know if I sold any of them.
Just curious.
I think I bought them all.
All right, next one.
Final one. Let me get rid of that one, and I put this one on. Reds are the worst defensive team in the NL Central.
Certainly feels like it.
Boy, I see. Here's where my inexpertise would come out. I don't know enough about the rest of the Central to be able to say this without a doubt. I've not seen the Cardinals play enough. I did see the Cubs the other day. The Cubs are a really good defensive team, if we're being completely honest. I don't like saying that, but that's the truth. Then I guess you have the Pirates and you have the Brewers. Brewers, clearly, they've been very good defensively. That's the reason as to why they've had success in the past. So I would have a hard time venturing out to say that the Reds are better than them. Now we have who would be left? I guess you have the Pirates and the Cardinals, the two teams that I would just throw my hand up in the air and say, Jesus, take the wheel. I'm not sure. But they're not very good defensively. We know that. I guess the bigger question would be, how does it get fixed? And I don't think that there's a real easy answer to that, which is a very, very concerning. And it's largely based off of two guys, if we're allowed to be completely frank about it. I think Matt McClain not being available and TJ Friedl not being available makes this team defensively incredibly more inefficient, because that was their two things that they did over exceedingly well. So when you take the two, that's almost like in a really sad way. It'd be like take the two best traits away from any player and ask if they're good anymore. I don't know if it's fair. I guess for a long-winded way of saying, I don't think it's fair to be extremely disappointed about the Reds defensively when you took their two best defensive players away. I mean, if Michael Jordan didn't have vertical leaping abilities, then he wouldn't have been a very good player. If you take away Joe Burrow's moxie in the pocket, then he wouldn't be a very good player. It's like you can't take things away from somebody that makes them great and then all of a sudden expect them to be okay again. So TJ Friedl's supposed to be back hopefully in 6 weeks was the time that they had given us. Matt McClain, I think at this point, I'm just going to suspect and assume he's out for the season.
That's what I think.
If he comes back before that, by all stretch of the imaginations, I will be pumped, but I don't expect that. And then Noelvi Marte, I know I keep leaving him out on purpose because I got to be honest with you. If this Reds team is anywhere near the hunt, if they've played decent baseball to where they are considered to be a part of a pennant race, then people are going to hate me for saying this, but I don't think you bring Noelvi Marte back at all.
I 100%
I think
agree.
you keep him in AAA. He plays the rest of the season. That's not a punishment, by the way. That's not a punishment. That's just, hey, if I can't rely on this guy to be there when the games are going to matter the absolute most, then I don't want him there at all from just some kind of – now, again, I hold my hand up and say if there's another injury to where you have to play him because he's clearly your best available, so be it. But if the chips fall where they may and nobody gets hurt, then guess what? I don't suspect him to come back, and I'm not counting on him to come back. Now, I'm not out on Noelvi Marte, to be clear. I will support him when he comes back next season if that's the way in which the Reds choose to go about it. But I don't want to – and it's not a mojo thing. It's just genuinely speaking, why are we going to shift guys around the infield and expect them to play different positions and then all of a sudden, boom, hey, we got a 3-game wild card series for the rest of our lives, and we got guys playing third base now that haven't played third base in 2 months. That seems like a terrible idea.
People aren't going to like that take. I agree with it 100%. If you are going to try to win in the postseason, you have to try to play with the roster that you've had all year. You can't change up the roster. It's not fantasy sports. You don't get A-Rod for half the year and then he just disappears magically. It doesn't make sense. So I agree with you. There might be a point where injuries force him to come back and play. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Noelvi should come back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair though, our fearless captain that is now a broadcaster in the booth, you could take his thought process, which is you could move some guys around the diamond, and they might end up just being better third basemen when they come back to play it again.
Maybe.
Think?
Yeah, maybe. And by the way, I'm going to buy this. This is the worst defensive team maybe in all of Major League Baseball. This is bad.
Wow, I'm not.
This is really bad.
Now
Did you watch a game Saturday? Because I was there, and it was disgusting.
Correct.
And by the way,
but you're the master of
whoever was the scorekeeper in that game,
right?
How was there no errors?
Because I'll tell you why. Major League Baseball has to do something about the scorekeeping. I get the concept that if you can't really justify that it's a routine play, you can't give an error to somebody, then you know what? Let's come up with some new stats. Let's call it team errors. There's a team error. You got two guys that are talking to each other between Espinal and CES, and it's a pop-up in the infield, and neither guy decide they want to take control, and they're both, in kind of miscommunication, and the ball falls between them. That's not an error. Like, come on.
That's an error.
Let's come up with a better solution, Major League Baseball, than just saying, oh, you know what, that's got to be a hit because there's nobody in the infield we can give the air to. Just come up with a team error. You have to.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And there were several pop-ups. What about our center fielder not throwing a ball in?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, he did not know how many outs there were. I seen people on Twitter wondering, Stuart Fairchild, for those that didn't see, caught a fly ball. Whether he throws the guy out at home, I don't know. But the truth is he'd had a puncher's chance to throw him out. But he didn't know how many outs there were. He caught the ball, kind of took a step or two in, and then he realized, oh, wait, nobody else is kind of running off the field with me. Let me throw the ball in. He was not, put it this way, Stuart Fairchild was not just, what would be the right term here, foregoing the opportunity to throw him out at home. He just didn't know how many outs there were, which is a pretty big thing.
You could argue is worse, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.